sent. And that's to the newspaper notice. Everybody doesn't take the newspaper, so if they don't take it, they don't see it. I know we'd like for everybody to take it, but everybody does not. And so they don't see that notice. And I just really think that there should be some absolute notification of the property owner before we go on that property and start doing anything. Now, I mentioned the example I have here in town, but I also own a piece of property in North Carolina that I don't go to North Carolina very often either. And sometimes, thank God, I've got good neighbors down there who let me know when something needs to be addressed and I can get it addressed. But it doesn't always get addressed in a timely basis. And I just think that we need to be thoughtful and considerate of property owners as well. If they just flagrantly refuse to do, then I have no problem with making the assessment, and it should stay with the property, and it should stay with the property until it changes hands. But I think always there should be notice before we do anything on anybody's property. And I would move to amend this ordinance to provide for notification in every case.
So we have a motion on the floor after the motion and second to amend the ordinance to call for a written notice to be provided before Xenia crews would mow a second time or a third time.
Period.
Is that true?
Before they notice, before they cut the grass, period.
Yes.
There needs to be notice to the property owner. They have one last chance to get it cut themselves before it's.
I think if I'm hearing correctly, that in the case of a first offense, a notice will go out.
It will.
So your motion is to add a subsequent written notice before a second or third or any other.
Before we go cut the grass.
Okay.
And because I don't know that the total amount of that bill is about $300.
I see.
And now that we've raised it, it's $350, or $240. The $340, I believe, is the exact amount, because it's $290 last year.
Okay.
And
so we now have a second motion on the table. Is there a second to the amendment motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll now open discussion on the amendment, and we'll be, provided there are no further amendments, we'll be voting on only the amendment to the ordinance first. Councilman.
I support this, but maybe there could be some compromise. Are you saying, what if they mailed it to you personally instead of your church? Would that
would probably
suffice?
take care of my situation at First United for as long as the time that I'm there. But the next pastor may or may not live in town or whatever. And I want to think in terms of, other property owners as well.
Well, okay, I see where you're coming from, but we have some property owners who don't take care of property in the city. And we have to get tough with those property owners, because the aesthetics of the city is very important to me. So, I think personally one notice suffices, but that's my personal opinion. Yeah. Thank you.
Other discussion, please.
So, yeah.
Councilman.
Edgar, our church owns property too, and we went through the same thing, paying the fines. I hear you, but really what we're saying is we're looking to incentivize the property owners to be proactive, not just reactive, right? And the reality is we're in the city, we're not in the country, right? And especially after going through this 1 year, that's just part of, you need to know that's going to happen next year too. We shouldn't all sit and say, oh, I'm kind of surprised next year. Why did that happen, right? Well, shame on us. We sat there and we paid $350 too on our church property. And I said, what the heck, where did that come from, right? Okay. But after we woke up and said, okay, there's a law here, the next year we said, wow, we're going to get ahead of this because we don't want to pay $350, right? And part of that is there's a whole series of things living in the city, right? Whether it's trash set out or all those kind of things. I get the thing about the notice. I I got the same thing too. I'll find a notice like this, 6 weeks later, right? After it trickles down wherever. But part of that is having the folks who are responsible for your property, knowing that that's one of our responsibilities coming into that next year. And you have to be proactive, not just wait for the city to remind you that this is your responsibility, right? And whether we're a small property owner or a large property owner, right, that's just part of our responsibilities within the city, right? And so, and I mean, I'd be more concerned if, for large properties like that, a lot of your property has the 50-foot setback, so there's a lot of that really only goes in the twice-a-year mowing versus the, every 10 inches for the whole property, perspective as well. And so you're right, people have to get a little more proactive with that, but it's, I just don't feel like it's the city's responsibility to continually remind you that you're falling behind on your responsibilities. And I don't think that's a good way for us to interact with our people. And we got some absentee property owners, but it doesn't matter if you're absentee, you're living in our city. You got a responsibility, right? And we have some property owners that are in the city, right? Everybody's got priorities and things, but that's just one of those things you gotta remember. There's a lot of things you gotta remember. You gotta remember that, hey, you only pick trash up on this day. And you can't say, well, send me a notice, Kugler, every day when you're gonna send out trash, and maybe I'll set my trash can out at the right time. Somehow I was able to figure out this only happens on this day, and I actually gotta put my trash out or it ain't gonna be picked up. And this is the same thing with the mowing. It's a responsibility we got, right? So I'm just telling you I feel your pain. I wasn't budgeted for $350 to pay it that year, and that was quite the spike, but we kind of woke up and said, we gotta go do that, so, yeah.
Councilman.
Well, I'd like an explanation of the process. If I understand right, the way this amendment, or this code is gonna be is, okay, we reach 10 inches, letter goes out to the property owner, they have 5 days. After day six, we can mow it and assess. So I'm not sure what Dr. Wallace is asking. Are you wanting an additional mailing after the 6 days that we're going to mow
That
it?
first notice is fine, but the issue is on the second occurrence. I don't think you have any problem with that process the first time.
No.
So like
Right.
60 days later, we need to mow it again?
Right, that's his
We're
question.
not sending a notice?
Unfortunately, it
Okay,
doesn't take
okay.
quite that long to get 10 inches of grass in.
So
Maybe
there
10 days later,
isn't
right.
any notification on subsequent?
No.
So if you hit over 12, you're just gonna get dinged?
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
the issue that I think we were finding was, number one, we were hiring additional help. It was an additional cost to our taxpayers of $10,000 a year
Right.
to hire seasonal help just to deal
Just to
with
put the notices out.
notification.
Understand. So who's gonna be the one driving around going, okay, now it's over 10 inches, so we need to mow it?
And
That's
you,
still
you,
the same
you send that
effort.
letter, so it's 2 or 3 days to get there,
Okay.
and then they've got 5 days to cut it. So the neighbors are looking at least 7 days, and that grass is continuing to get higher.
Understand.
If you have to send a notice every single time that grass gets cut, then the neighbors are dealing with that situation over and over and over and over. Because
Understand.
the change we want to make is we notify you one time. We tell you in that notification, this is the only letter you're gonna get. Keep your grass mowed. Keep it under 10 inches. If in subsequent it gets over 10, then we will simply go in and mow it. So the neighbors aren't dealing with that continuing cycle of high grass over and over across the whole summer.
And the address we're mailing that letter, is that based on what Greene County Auditor
That would
has
be,
for
that would be the tax
So
mailing
that
address.
should be accurate list, I would think. Okay.
Unfortunately, this is one of these provisions that I think the staff is recommending a change based on the abusers of the system, and it affects the folks who might have a one-off or a two-off situation. It's just that, when we establish a standard, it has to apply to everyone.
All right, thank you.
Other comments, please?
Is there any way we could make it like a first-time offender if we don't have them in our records for having ever exceeded the grass limits? We give them maybe a second notice within a certain period of time, but after that, then we'd go back to one notice.
It's possible. Brian, you want to speak to that? From just an operational
Because
standpoint?
I'm assuming each year that it would reset, correct? Or would it be just you get one notice?
Okay, can I just, I guess,
Yeah, it
just
would
offer a little.
reset. You get a notice every year.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just to offer a little context, we get over 1,000 of these violations a year. So, and currently, we do not mail notices. We post the notices on the property, because if we had to mail the notices, we would have to do more than hire temporary help. We might have to hire an additional person to do that. and/or our code enforcement officer would not have the time in his day to address anything else. So the problem with mailing is that not only is it taking a lot of our staff time, but it's also taking much, much longer to mow the property. If we had to mail a notice every single time, keep in mind, mail takes several days to get there. So we've observed the grass, it's 10 inches tall. We mail a notice, the letter may take 2 to 5 days to get to the owner. That's another 2 to 5 days. The grasses will have grown several more inches in that time. And then the owner will have several days beyond that to mow the lawn. If they don't mow it, then that grass is probably, by the time we get a contractor out there, that grass may be over 20 inches tall. So that is why years ago we switched to posting notices on the property, because mailing was just not practical. It was taking too long. And that's why if we are going to mail, we'll do it once. And then, and I'm not sure if I'm addressing your question or not. I think you were talking about
I guess,
first-time offense.
yeah, my question was like, so for a first-time offender, do we keep track of the people who commit these violations?
We have a database that
Okay.
shows, each violation that occurs by property. Yeah.
Okay, my question was, for a first-time offender, if they aren't in that database, could we then give them a second notice? Just to give them a little more leeway, because this is, like Mr. Merriman stated, it's kind of designed to deal with the repeat offenders, and it hurts,
Right.
everyone. Maybe someone was just
I mean,
had a bad back, or their
Certainly,
lawnmower
we
was
could,
broken.
look into that. I mean, again, I think it gets back to, we're gonna talk about repeated mailings. That grass is gonna more than double, maybe even triple in height by the time all those notices go out and the owner receives them. So, I mean, it would benefit the owner, but it's gonna come at the cost of the neighbors, we can certainly do that. I'm just letting you know that's, mailing takes a long time. When you're talking about 2 mailed notices, that grass is gonna be very long. So.
While I have you right here, Brian, and then Councilman Louderback, I think has a question as well. Is it fair to observe that a majority, if not a large majority, of the instances that you talk about grass being in violation come from calls made to the city about particular properties? Or is it a majority, the code enforcement officer is out noticing these things?
I would say it's the majority of the latter. The
Okay.
we are
code
proactively
enforcement
identifying
Okay.
violations before we get calls. We do get calls, but most times we've already started to handle them because we've been out there.
Okay,
I don't know, Brian, if you can answer this, or maybe Ryan. You said approximately 1,000 offenders. I
Well,
see
violations.
violations. I see that being worth more than $10,000. Are you saying the people that we hire, do we hire people to cut the individual's grass, or is that done in-house?
Yeah,
We hire
we hire
contractors.
those
We hire
as
people.
contractors.
Contractual service.
Okay, where's the, you said 10,000, was
Yeah,
that,
so
is that
not
for an extra
1,000.
code enforcer?
The cost of actual mowing, that's what we assess on the property. The $10,000, and this was my understanding from Brian, that is the seasonal help that his department has to hire to help keep up with the current notification process.
Right, so that's another staff member going around the community and looking for violations and processing them.
I guess what I'm saying, once people take heed to this, that number could go down
You would hope.
substantially.
That's the goal.
You would hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
any other discussion on the amendment to the original motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Urschel,
Nay?
Councilman Louderback,
No.
Councilman Smith,
No.
Councilman Dean,
No.
Mayor Mays,
No.
President Engel.
No.
Motion failed.
Okay, back to the original motion on ordinance 2019-05. Any further discussion on that ordinance, on that motion, which is to pass as written? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace,
No.
Councilman Urschel,
Aye.
Councilman Louderback,
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next item is Resolution 2019-C, a second reading, authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with J.P. Fritz Business Center for the city-owned property at 130 East Church Street for the purpose of operating a small business incubator, originally introduced by Mayor Mays, but tabled on February 28th. So I believe we need a motion to untable first. May I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Thank you, by Councilman Latterback. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Smith, to untable this motion. Any discussion on untabling the motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Walsh.
Aye.
Councilman Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Now a motion, please, to pass Resolution 2019-C.
Move for passage, please.
Thank you. Moved by the mayor. Second,
I'll
please.
second that.
Seconded by the vice president. Discussion or question on this motion, please. Councilman.
Just a comment. I'm excited about the business incubator, and I just wanted to give hats off to Joshua, who's in the audience from Manifold. I had a couple business owners that needed help, and he stepped to the plate and is in the process of helping them. So, but to be quite honest with you, and I discussed this with you, Joshua, I'm not very happy with the Central State representation. Anthony, I've called him several times, did not return my call. If it hadn't been for you, I would vote against this. So I appreciate, and again, the business incubator is going to be great for the city of Xenia. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion or comments, please?
Just for council's information, they
Thank you.
have been certified by the Secretary of State. They are a legal existing entity.
Thank you.
Danette, I have one question. So I've got no doubt about Josh's intention and goodwills, but if they're, so we're doing a 3-year lease, and what are our protections on the city's side that they continue to occupy this, but they're not operating in the context of really being a business incubator at that point? And I know we get the 1-year reports, and let's say we look at this and say, hey, we don't see any businesses being incubated. Do we have the right to, what are our rights to terminate the lease on our side, and what are the conditions? Specifically, not from them, abandoning the site or doing things like that, but actually not performing under the context of it being a business incubator.
We gave you a sample of the draft lease agreement that should be attached to your cover memo. If you look at number 4, we limited the use of the premises to they can only use it as a business incubator. So they would not be able to occupy that and use it for anything else.
Okay, so if it came to a point, and once again, I'm not doubting them at all, but just in the context of we're entering into an agreement, if we got to a point of saying we don't believe it's being operated within the context of its original purpose, we would have the ability to terminate that lease?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Within the context of this lease agreement?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because that would be a violation of a condition of the lease.
Okay, great.
Any other discussion or question, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Walsh.
Aye.
Councilman Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We have no public hearings scheduled this evening, so we'll move on to new business. First item under new business is ordinance 2019-06, an emergency, amending ordinance 2019-03 to provide appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the city of Xenia, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, President Engel. The request for an additional appropriation is for 2 purposes. The first is for some contingency dollars related to the engineering and design of the South Columbus Street Bridge project. And then the second is related to the 2018 CDBG allocation grant. The CDBG allocation grant, that's not actually additional dollars, that's a transfer. We're trying to get those in the correct account lines for charging back the grant dollars. So those are the 2 reasons for the request for an appropriation ordinance tonight.
Thank you very much. Now the motion, please, as an emergency.
So moved as an emergency.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach as an emergency. Second, please.
I'll second that.
seconded by Councilman Smith. Thank you. Any discussion or question on this motion, please?
Mr. President,
Yes.
just one clarification on the CDBG component of this. This is something we typically do in a year. I don't know if it's oversight or what have you with this particular change, but to the finance director's point, it's not additional appropriation, it's just moving those dollars over for these purposes, which includes some of that personnel offset as well as the fair housing component that we have to comply with.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Urschel?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item is Resolution 2019-E, seeking an introduction, establishing street lighting District Number 3 within the Sterling Green Crossing subdivision and declaring the necessity of improving city streets and public ways within Street Lighting District Number 3 by the lighting thereof for the years 2020 to 2022. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. As council will call from prior actions like this, our zoning code requires the developer of a subdivision that is interested in including streetlights within his subdivision to agree to a streetlight assessment for the benefiting lots within that particular plat. In line with this, M1 Development LLC, the developer for the Sterling Green Crossing subdivision, Section 3, wishes to include lighting in this new subdivision section and has received a cost to install 9 streetlights for that purpose, along with the monthly electricity fee per the city's contract with Miami Valley Lighting. The developer is, of course, responsible for the initial cost to install the lights, but then the city takes responsibility for that ongoing monthly electricity, as we do for all of our other street lights in town. Tonight, it's recommended that council introduce the attached resolution of necessity to establish the Street Lighting District Number 3, adoption of which will result in a street light assessment being included on the individual lot owner's property tax duplicate from the Greene County Auditor. We're recommending a 2-year period on the assessments, as the assessments for Street Lighting Districts Number 1 and Number 2 will both expire in 2022. This allows us to renew all of those at the same time in the future. Based upon our analysis, the owner of each of the 46 lots within Section 3 of the Sterling Green Crossing subdivision would pay an annual fee of $23.41, and we would recommend introduction this evening.
Thank you very much. May I have an introduction from one of my colleagues? Introduced by the Vice President. Thank you. Next item is Resolution 2019-F, authorizing the city manager to use negotiations or informal competition for the sale of the city-owned property at 677 East Cincinnati Avenue and any fixtures thereon. Mr. City Manager.
City Council previously instructed staff to make available the city-owned property known as the former H&A site, which has been on the market under an arrangement with a commercial real estate firm. While some minor inquiries about the property have been made, it has not yet received significant purchase interest. It's appropriate at this time for the city to either renew or seek a new arrangement, alternatively for representation of the property for marketing purposes. And so we are seeking council's approval this evening, I guess introduction of the resolution 2019-F that would allow us to take the necessary steps to move forward with that. It should note that we continue to try to market the property. We want to get it back into private hands for productive use, and of course get it a reasonable deal if we can. So.
Thank you very much. May I have an introduction, please, from one of my colleagues?
So introduced.
Introduced by Councilman Lauterbach. Thank you. Next item is an administrative motion approving the recommendations of the Greene County Tax Incentive Review Committee as presented and direct the OEZ annual report to be forwarded to the Greene County Commissioners for consideration. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Pursuant to ORC 5709.85, a tax incentive review council is required in Greene County for the purpose of annually reviewing all of the Ohio Enterprise Zone and CRA agreements to evaluate whether or not the participating companies are in compliance with the obligations of their respective agreements. After said review, the TIRC is required to make a recommendation to the City Council regarding the compliance status and whether to continue those agreements. Recommendations of the TIRC and any actions taken thereon by City Council are then submitted to the local Enterprise Zone Manager for Greene County and the Greene County Commissioners, who then review and forward the approved recommendations to the Ohio Department of Taxation and the Ohio Development Services Agency. At this time, the City of Xenia has one active OEZ agreement and one active CRA agreement that were each reviewed by the TIRC at their annual meeting on February 27th, 2019. The TIRC has recommended the acceptance of staff recommendations for both projects, which include the CRA agreement with Tashi Hospitality to continue the 90% abatement of applicable real property taxes, and the OEZ agreement with CIL Isotope Separations, which is under construction, and deferment of the abatement is recommended there. Tonight, we recommend adoption of the administrative motion approving these actions recommended by the Incentive Review Committee, and direct the OEZ annual report to be forwarded to the county commissioners for their consideration.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please, for approval?
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Smith. Discussion or question on this motion, please? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Urschel?
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach?
Aye.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Engel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item is also an administrative motion authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with American Structure Point and Company for engineering design services for the South Columbus Street Bridge Rehabilitation Project. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. As detailed in your agenda report for this evening, the city was, of course, successful in securing a grant through the State of Ohio Municipal Bridge Program to replace or rehabilitate deteriorated sections of the South Columbus Street Bridge, which is over the Shawnee Creek North Branch. This bridge met eligibility requirements, and structural assessment of the bridge revealed joint deterioration and need to rehabilitate the turn-of-the-century stone abutments. Under this grant program, the city is responsible for the associated design costs, but the Ohio Municipal Bridge Program is an extremely beneficial program in that the construction costs are split 95% to the state and 5% to the locality. The City of Xenia was granted $340,000 for construction by the State of Ohio, with a local share commitment of just $18,000 for the project. On Monday, February 4th, 2019, the Engineering Division received 5 responses in its request for proposals from engineering firms to design, request for qualifications from engineering firms who, for the purpose of designing the improvements for the rehabilitation of this particular bridge. Our review committee did evaluate the submittals and concluded that the most qualified firm to design the improvements to the bridge was American Structure Point. Because it is currently uncertain as to whether certain tasks for this project will be, design portion anyway, will be necessary as part of the design process, American Structure Point has submitted a worst case not to exceed design fee of $99,916. Originally, $70,000 was budgeted for the engineering design in this year's budget. However, because of these design unknowns at this time, city staff, of course, requested the additional appropriations earlier this evening so that the necessary funds would be available if they are needed, and we certainly hope that they won't be. We wanted to make them available if they are. Tonight, we are recommending an administrative motion to authorize execution of the contract with American Structure Point for design services of the bridge in an amount not to exceed $99,916 upon such terms and conditions as would be approved by our law director.
Thank you very much. A motion, please, to approve.
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lauterbach. Discussion or question on this motion, please. Councilman.
This is a much-needed project, and it only costs the city $18,000. So this bridge is in very bad shape. So I'm all in favor for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion or question, please.
I'd just like to echo that I thought that's where Councilman Lauterbach was going. Applaud the staff for going after this grant. 95 to 5 is a tremendous deal, and I'm glad that we were able to accept it.
I would just add, not everyone, depending on your political beliefs, necessarily likes the grant programs that are out there, but they are a part of the system. And so if we choose not to apply, and we are just denying ourselves of the opportunity to be considered for those funds.
Exactly.
So we're very proud of our engineering staff. They've brought tremendous value. And look no further than this year. Later this evening, tonight, we'll discuss Second Street projects, and as we'll detail in those, there's substantial grant funding that will be coming to the city that will allow us to do those projects this year. So our engineering staff has been tremendously successful. I want to give them the kudos that they deserve. They've done a great job with it. And, Mr. Berger and Mr. Miller should be commended for that.
Agree. Thank you very much. Any other discussion or question, please? Seeing no additional, roll call, please.
Vice President Walz.
Aye.
Councilman Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next item is also an administrative motion authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Heinz Farming LLC for biosolids handling for calendar years 2019 through 2021. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you. This is a very heavy public service agenda tonight, so it'll keep our staff out there busy after tonight. February 26, 2019, proposals were received by our Public Service Department from qualified contractors for a proposed 3-year agreement with the city for biosolids disposal. Biosolids are, of course, the resultant product from our wastewater treatment services. They are a regulated product under the Ohio EPA, so this is not just a normal material for obvious reasons. The unit price proposals were based on an estimated assumption of an annual disposal of 4,000 wet tons of biosolid material. We received 2 responses in our RFP, and those were coming from Heinz Farming LLC that had 3-year totals that were the same at $14.85, and Sinegro, which had a starting bid in 2019 of $21 a ton, followed by subsequent increases to $21.50 and $22 a ton over the 2020-2021 years. Heinz Farming was clearly the lowest bid, and based on our recent experience with the firm, we're satisfied with their overall service delivery. Their price point of $14.85 per ton with no escalators within the budget was certainly well received. As a result, as to the recommendation of a staff this evening, that City Council authorized by administrative motion the execution of a contract with Heinz Farming for biosolids handling for the 3-year period of 2019 to 2021 at the price points as submitted.
Thank you very much. Motion, please, to approve.
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
Second.
Also- Seconded by Councilman Lauterbach. Discussion or question on this motion, please.
So, Brett, help me understand. On one hand, I got the context and the summary that these are useful products, and the second, I think I got that we're paying for someone to remove those
Yep.
products.
So I think I know where you're going, Councilman. So, you know.
And I'm kind of ignorant of this, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to put those 2 pieces of information together.
So there was a time not all that long ago that regulations on the use of this product were much looser than they are today. But with the growing problem with phosphates and nitrates,
Right.
these products are much more heavily regulated. So while there is value to the product in terms of use as a fertilizer application, they're very restricted as well. And we could not just go and sell this or just apply it somewhere, and it has to be done under license. The alternative for us would be to basically just landfill it all. We're
Right.
going to pay the tipping fees on top of everything else.
Right.
So in order for these firms to make it cost effective, they are paid at both ends in order to produce a profit.
Okay. So we feel, as with any other municipality, that all municipalities that are producing this kind of product are basically paying for removal of the product?
Again, these are leftover sewage waste
No, I
materials,
get
so
that,
they're
right.
very, they are, I don't know if the term would be volatile, but they are a regulated substance.
Right.
You can't just dump them. They have to either be
No, I got
landfilled or
that.
used
Right.
under license. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a pretty typical procedure. We used to store more on site, I think, probably than we do today. There's some risk to that with rain runoff, and we've had additional
Right.
expenditures over the years to try to expand our on-site storage. We've just found this to be the most cost-effective manner of getting rid of this material.
Okay, okay.
Any other question or comment, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Walz.
Aye.
Councilman Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Another administrative motion authorizing the city manager to execute contracts for water distribution and sewer collection supplies for 2019. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Item G is another annual housekeeping item. On February 26, 2019, proposals were received from 5 vendors for the provision of both water and sewer supplies for our Public Service Department. The vendors proposed competitive pricing for a broad list of water and sewer supplies, shown in the bid tabulations attached to your agenda report. The prices proposed are valid for a 1-year period, and the responding vendors included Ferguson Waterworks, E.J. Prescott, Core and Maine, ProSource, and Neenah Foundry. Due to the large quantity and availability of various items, city staff recommends that all 5 of these proposals from each of the vendors be attached with the attached list be accepted and contracts entered into with each vendor. This will allow us to get the lowest possible price for each of the items that are listed, and each item will be pursued at the lowest cost among the 5 of them based on when we need it throughout the course of the year. All of these products are procured on an as-needed basis. So this evening, we are recommending that council approve the administrative motion to authorize us to enter in agreements with these 5.
Thank you very much. Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Smith. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lauterbach. Discussion or question on this motion, please. Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Waltz.
Aye.
Councilman Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Another administrative motion awarding the bid and authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with John R. Jurgensen Company for the West Second Street repaving, or West Second Street resurfacing project. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. As we discussed earlier this evening, and certainly as we have discussed previously with council over the past couple of years, our engineering staff has applied for grant funding through MVRPC and the Ohio Public Works Commission to address the rapidly deteriorating condition of West Second Street, specifically from East Church Street to South Progress Drive. We were successful in grant applications, and the grant funding, grant funds rather, are being awarded on a favorable timeline so that one large West Second Street resurfacing project could be bid and awarded at the same time. This will allow us basically to get better unit pricing by being able to join these projects together this year. On March 15th of this year, 2 qualifying competitive bids were received from contractors to complete the resurfacing project. They were from John R. Jurgensen Company with a 2-project total of $1,051,957, and from Barrett Paving Materials with a 2-project total of $1,206,046.45. John R. Jurgensen was clearly the low bidder and has successfully completed many projects for the city of Xenia in the past. Based on these factors, staff has no objections with moving forward with this contractor, and we are comfortable in recommending to City Council this evening that you authorize the execution of the contract with John R. Jurgensen for the project at a total not to exceed cost of $1,051,957.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I will make the motion. You said March 15th, but the sheet says March 5th. Is that?
Correct. I'm sorry, I just misread on my notes. March 5th. Yep.
So moved by the Vice President for approval. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lauterbach. Any discussion or question on this motion? Councilman.
I just want to give accolades to our engineer, Chris Berger, and his assistant, Dominic Miller. They're the city's represented MVRPC, and they've done a great job in getting us this grant money. So it's not easy sometimes, but I appreciate the work they've done, and this project is a much-needed project. So, anyway, thanks.
Other discussion or question, please. Councilman.
What's the timeline for this to start?
Mr. Engineer, can you speak to that?
Curious.
We are, assuming we get passage tonight, which obviously I'm going to assume we are, we have a pre-construction meeting set with the contractor for next Friday. And I know John R. Jurgensen would like to get in there like yesterday because, as you know, with our annual street program, we go with the Greene County Engineer's Office. We found out today they got that contract. And so they would like to, they've informed us, they'd like to get into, at least get the milling of the project, get it started in advance of doing the Greene County Engineers contract. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, I would expect to see someone out there here in early April, mid-May, or early April, mid-April. Yes.
Early, mid-April. My only concern is I think that this street is one of the thoroughfares for the marathon.
For the marathon.
Okay.
We are aware of that.
Okay.
And we'll be talking about that project internally here. That's for the half, and it finishes up, I believe, up on Ottawa maybe, and then to go to Second Street. we'll make provisions working with the contractor. That's one of the things you talk about at a pre-construction meeting. And as a matter of fact, our relationship with John R. Jurgens, and they're always like, whatever you need us to do is fine.
I mean, honestly.
We actually have a planning meeting related to the marathon set. I don't know if it's.
Tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? It's
Yes.
within the next few days here,
I don't run
so.
on asphalt much, but I'd almost think it being milled would be better than the current conditions.
Yes, just to get that, to get a more.
Speaking as a runner right there, who's run a lot right there, I probably agree with you. If you run on where there's a lot of potholes or a lot of base failure right there, that doesn't feel good on your ankles.
And there's some risk, right?
Please?
There's some risk of falling and,
Well, there's always that. That's why they have to sign a waiver when they sign up for the race.
Are there potholes in this?
No comment.
Just kidding.
No comment.
Any other questions or comments,
Yeah.
Thank you
please?
very much.
Hey, Chris, just for my information, as we were having the discussions the other day, so this is gonna remove the surface and the intermediate courses. Is the base gonna be left?
We're doing what we did last year. Galloway was a great example. We are doing base repairs on the drive lanes.
Okay,
If we did base repair, well, first of all, it's
Right,
not
right.
necessary to do it everywhere,
Right,
like we
right,
talked
right.
about, A. And B, if we did it on the whole width of the street, we wouldn't have any money to pave.
right, okay.
But we are doing base repairs there
Repair
on the
as
drive
need- As
lanes.
needed, as
Yes,
it's
correct.
been removed, and then an assessment is made of that then?
That is
Okay.
correct.
And then what about are we addressing the stormwater removal along with this project? With-
There
actually
are
that-
catch basins
Yeah.
that are getting, we did some in advance last year internally, but there are some line items for the contractors to do catch basin repairs and
Right.
replacement.
Right,
To
so-
reduce that cost, we were able to do some of those last year with our staff.
Right,
To
so
Chris' point, there are a few
are we gonna feel like this road will have both the roadway and the stormwater address then for this road?
Yes.
For this road, yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion or question, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace,
aye.
Councilman Urschel,
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach,
Aye.
Councilman Smith,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Now an administrative motion awarding the bid and authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with L.J. DeWeese Company for the West Second Street Concrete Improvements Project. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you. So for item I, obviously, the RFP and the award of bid is directly related to this prior agenda item for Second Street. In order to receive the necessary grant funds to resurface a portion of West Second Street, in particular the section between Massey Drive and South Progress Drive, it's necessary to complete concrete improvements that meet federal ADA standards. Specifically because federal funds granted through MVRPC are being used to resurface this section of the roadway, all of the accessory ADA ramps have to be compliant with the most current designs for ADA. That's a condition within the grant. In addition, this particular section of roadway does contain areas of deteriorated curbing, in some cases substantially deteriorated curbing, as in non-existent. And there are some driveways that have settled, and that's resulted in accumulation of water, which of course is one of the enemies of maintaining roadways. So with that in mind, because the work is located within an eligible area, we have strategized to utilize community development block grant funds for the concrete work associated with this project. This strategy allows us to stack these grant funding resources. We can meet the eligibility requirements for the funding resources and stretch our dollars a lot further. And I want to give kudos to our staff for coming up with the strategy, because we're getting a significant investment on this roadway, and we're minimizing the amount of local dollars to do that. So on March 5th of 2019, the city did receive 7 bids for the project. However, 5 of those bids had to be rejected as non-responsive because some of the bid forms required for CDBG submittal under federal grant guidelines were not included with the bids as required. So the remaining 2 compliant competitive bids were from L.J. DeWeese Company at totaling $99,047, and from Fillmore Construction LLC at a total of $115,816. The L.J. DeWeese Company was a low bidder, obviously, and based on our review, they have successfully completed similar projects for other jurisdictions. Based on these factors, staff has no objections with moving forward with this contractor, We recommend to City Council this evening that the council award the bid and authorize the execution of the contract with the firm at a not to exceed amount of $99,047.
Thank you very much. Motion for approval, please.
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Smith. Discussion or question on this bid? Councilman?
Just for some clarification, Massey Drive, is that where Nazarene Church is?
Correct.
And then
Just
all
offset
the
from
way to going
All the way going west to Progress.
west of Progress? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question? Just an observation, yet another example of outstanding staff work by our city engineer, city staff and such to extend tax dollars as far as humanly possible while maximizing the amount of return to the citizens of Xenia. Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Urschel,
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach,
Aye.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Administrative motion authorizing the city manager to execute work order number 2019-04 with Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions and Company for landfill post-closure groundwater monitoring for 2019 under the existing master services agreement. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. The city is required by statute and under the auspices of the Ohio EPA to monitor various conditions at our closed municipal landfill, which is located to our, adjacent to our Tyler Road Public Service Facility. To assist us in these monitoring activities, staff is recommending that the city continue its long-term relationship with Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions. This was formerly AMEC Foster Wheeler. Some of the older council members, not older, more tenured on council will remember them by that name. And we use them to complete the necessary landfill post-closure groundwater monitoring activities, and that would continue in 2019 under these terms. Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions has performed these services of monitoring at the landfill since 1996. They have obtained a very unique body of knowledge about this site because of the intricate geologic and chemical issues that are associated with our landfill. So they do have a unique insight into the conditions at our closed landfill. The price quote provided by Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions for groundwater monitoring in 2019 is $37,081. Services will be provided under the existing 2012 Master Services Contract. Staff recommends City Council approve a motion to authorize execution of work order 2019-04 with Wood Environment and Infrastructure for these post-closure groundwater monitoring services for 2019.
Thank you. Motion for approval, please.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Lauterbach. Second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the Vice President. Discussion or question on this motion, please. Councilman.
I'm assuming you have referred to older council members, you were referring to myself and President Engel?
I meant the longer tenured
Or
members of
maybe,
council.
maybe Vice President Wall.
I
was gonna
most
say, I
certainly
didn't
was
know
not
what he was
referring to
talking about
Councilman
at the
Dean.
time. Any other discussion or question on the motion, please? Seeing none, roll call.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Urschel,
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach,
Aye.
Councilman Smith,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
I won't seek a motion for this, but I motion would move we give the city manager a break. And our next item is an administrative motion, our last one, approving the schedule of bills in the amount of $518,435.94. Mr. Finance Director.
I have nothing specifically to note on the schedule of bills.
Thank you. Any discussion or question on our bills?
Move we pay 'em.
Move we pay by the Vice President. Sorry, I'm now out of order. I'm so excited to be at the end of this list. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by the mayor. Now, is there any question about our bills? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Urschel,
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach,
Aye.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Engel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, and thank you for bearing with us both here and on TV. That was one of the longer lists of new business and old business items that we've had in quite some time. But in all seriousness, thank you to the city manager and our other appointed officials for bringing this together along with your staff's It is important that we get all this done, and it just so happens it really backed up on this particular Thursday evening. At this time, we'll move to reports of committees. The first item is the report from the Board of Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities. I chair that board, and will provide the following. We met on the 5th of March, and several activities had reports. Our youth recreational basketball program that's been underway for a number of years now is wrapping up their season. They played their last regular season games this last Saturday, and this upcoming Sunday, I believe, they will have makeup games, double headers essentially, to round out their season. Then following on Saturday, this Saturday, so it would have been the Sunday last, they had their makeup games. This Saturday will be the tournament games, and the championship will then follow the week afterwards. The annual Easter egg hunt is set for April the 20th. The National Honor Society is being sought from the community schools to provide support, as they've done for a number of years. They always do a great job, and we expect that there will be other groups that volunteer for that as well to make this community event, as it's always very popular, a successful one as well. Bloom with Xenia and Adopt a Spot. Packets are available at the city. Please contact the city clerk if you would like one of those to sponsor an area. I think there are only 1 or 2 of those areas other than some of our islands that are left available at this point in time. The community gardens will be available for rent for $20 for the entire season. That will start from mid-April through October 31st, and letters are going to go out the last week in March to the last set of users for those spots. Our fishing derby sometime out is June the 1st, but we'll be here before we know it. Importantly, if you're interested in sponsoring that for what's approximately between 80 and 120 Xenia youth and area youth every year, they are always seeking sponsors. Farmers Insurance here locally will be the primary sponsor this year, but they are always seeking donations, door prizes, that sort of thing, that we can encourage this love of fishing by our youth. One thing that I neglected to mention about the annual egg hunt, my apologies, so I'll back up 1 or 2 items. We are always seeking basket donations for that, as a large part of the annual Easter egg hunt is basket donations that are given away, approximately 50 to upwards of 100 baskets to Xenia youth at the conclusion of that. And we are always blessed to have our now councilman, Pastor Urschel, as part of that process, as well as our mayor, and any number of other council members and city staff who support that event. Hometown Christmas is in the planning stages. I'll have more reports for that as we go a little further along through the year, but we can probably expect a change to the both the venue and scope of it from what we've had in past years, based on trends of participation and such. But again, I'll have more on that later on. Any questions, please, for the BRCA? If not, I will move on to the Traffic Commission. March meeting was canceled. Anything to add, Councilman Dean?
No, I won't have anything else to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything for the Traffic Commission, please? Seeing none. Planning and Zoning Commission. March meeting was rescheduled and has not yet occurred. Anything to add, Councilman?
Sure. The March meeting, originally scheduled for the first week, Thursday in March, was canceled due to lack of agenda items, but actually after that meeting was canceled, literally that day, we had some items that came up. So we've reached out to planning and zoning members, and we're rescheduling that March meeting for next Thursday, the 21st, and that's a 6 o'clock time frame.
Thank you very much. Anything for planning and zoning for Councilman Smith, please? Board of Zoning Appeals, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. BZA did meet on February 25th, heard 2 cases. The first is a variance to allow privacy fence built without a permit to remain at 1191 Reed Avenue, filed by Joe Fugate, which was denied. And the second was a variance request to construct a detached garage at 672 Emerson Avenue, filed by Michael Piccola, which was approved. And that is it. Our next meeting will be March 25th at 6 p.m.
Thank you very much. Anything for the Board of Zoning Appeals, please? Seeing none, we'll move to appointed official reports and council comments. Mr. City Manager, have you had a drink and are ready to go again?
Warm in here on top of it. Just a
Of
couple.
water.
Yeah, water.
Water to refresh his voice.
There's some days that other drink might be refreshing too. Just a couple of notes. One, we honored through the proclamation with the mayor this evening, the Legion, and I just wanted to acknowledge as a Buckeye Boy State alum from 1994, that type of program sponsored by that organization inspires a lot of our youth to want to serve and give back to their communities through professional government service. And so I just want to acknowledge what they do in terms of promoting patriotism in our communities and the understanding of citizenship and the role and responsibility we all have to engage in our local government. So just acknowledging them for their service and thanking the mayor for taking the time to do that. Additionally, we hosted this week, yesterday as a matter of fact, our annual job fair. I will be honest, I was a little disappointed in the coverage from not our local newspaper, which was very good, but from the Dayton Daily News. They sort of suggested that we were underrepresented in that. We actually had a real good turnout. I think the reality we face in the job market today is that there are more jobs available than people to fill them. So the purpose of the job fair is not just to find people an opportunity for folks looking for jobs, but also for the employers to be able to have a platform to try to reach out. So in that respect, it was successful. A huge thank you to the Xenia Community Schools for hosting the event. Very grateful for their participation, and I think one of the program elements that we've added the first hour of the job fair is focused on the high school seniors and providing an opportunity for them to meet with armed service recruiters, some of the educational partners, as well as all of the different vendors that are there looking for employee prospects. And so that was a really good component that we've added this year. And so I appreciate the Xenia Community Schools and their efforts to help provide opportunities for their students in partnership with us. I think that's all I have this evening.
Thank you very much. Anything for our city manager, please?
Along those same lines, what are employers looking for? Are they looking for tech skills? Are they looking for a skilled labor?
Yeah, it really is all of the above. We've had conversations with the Right Pat folks. We've had, as recently as this week, we've had conversations with local industry. It is, right now, there is just such a broad range of employment opportunities from even within our own ranks, if you're looking at fire and police positions and finding folks through the civil service process. So it really is a range of skill sets, both college educated as well as folks right out of high school. And we can, again, folks who are troubled with that, we can provide, in terms of finding employment, we can provide some assistance and get them in contact with agencies here in Greene County that can directly assist them. And specifically for veterans in our community. There are a lot of services for veterans in our community. We want to make sure that they understand that we will go out of our way to help provide opportunities to link them with services.
That's why I'm excited about Green Vocational. Not all kids are college
Absolutely.
material.
Absolutely.
But some of these companies are looking for specialized welders, CNC operators, electricians. So you don't have to go to college to make a living.
Yeah, and we spoke just yesterday with the base leadership from Wright-Patterson, and they talked about some of the many job opportunities that are forthcoming on their base, and many of them are associated with some type of skilled trade, and these will be very well-paying jobs. And so, there's a variety of opportunities, and I really think we need to re-gear our educational process to get students to think about opportunities outside of just college education. I mean, you can make fantastic wages with many of these, through apprenticeship programs and skilled training to go into those types of skilled labor work.
One other quick thing. This is severe weather season. I used to call our system Code Red, but what is it, Hyperlink?
Yeah, it's HyperReach, and it's one thing.
Okay,
HyperReach.
can you, how do people sign up for that?
So that's perfect. We were hoping this would be addressed tonight, and I think our IT staff is going to show us here. If you go to the city's website at explorexenia.com, right on the home page, you'll see this large red icon, HyperReach. By clicking on that icon, it will open you up to a registration page. And you simply go into this page, fill out the necessary information, and then you can submit that information, and the number that you add to that contact system will be linked into the system, and it will remain there unless you opt out at a later date. And we highly encourage folks to do this. We don't exercise, we don't utilize this service for every watch and warning that goes out. But there are a broad range of incidences and weather conditions where we would use a service like that. And so we highly encourage folks to opt into HyperReach so that they can be kept abreast of critical notifications that need to come out in the community.
I think at one time you had to have a landline, but can you have a cell phone now?
Absolutely. This is any number you want to plug in there would be applicable. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Just a quick question, not to put you on the spot. Branding of the water tower, is that gonna happen?
Yeah, so we've done some preliminary research with that. We will be coming back to council in the very near future, seeking some input on how you want to proceed with that. But we think we have a lucrative opportunity to help basically defray our entire cost with that.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Anything else for the city manager, please? I have two items, one to add to Councilman Latterback's comments. I am very supportive as well of the HyperReach project. Also, do not hesitate to go out and consider purchasing a very small weather radio. Those are excellent items as well, should you not be near your landline, near your cell phone at night, that plugged in will give you a very distinct announcement that there's some serious concern that you need to be aware of. And those are not very expensive and fairly widely available.
There are also some very good, free of charge, if you have a smartphone, weather apps. Many of our local media providers,
Yes.
WHIO is a good example. They have a very good weather app that will provide customized notifications on your smartphone. So, and we encourage folks to be aware. Oftentimes we'll hear folks say, well, you know, we're having trouble hearing tornado sirens indoor. Tornado sirens are not designed to notify you indoors. They are basically for outdoor folks. So it's important either through a weather radio or an app or some other function like that to keep yourself weather aware.
Thank you. And then I would just add to your observation, I was not born here in Ohio, but came here in 1986 after graduating from college. But I was a Hoosier Boys State member, and that, as described in it, a week that will shape a lifetime. It truly did make quite an impression on me. I still remember being a member of Lutz County and Coon City at Indiana State University for that week, and made some very long-term friends, and really shaped my view of how politics should work. So I completely agree with you, and congratulations on being a Boys State member as well.
I was a member of the House of Representatives, and anytime I got in trouble, we just claimed diplomatic immunity. It seemed to work pretty well.
I don't think the House gets it.
Nerd alert.
Mr. Finance Director, can you top that?
I cannot. I have nothing this evening.
Thank you. Madam Law Director.
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Anything for, my apologies, either our Finance Director or our Law Director? Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I'll begin with Saturday, March 9th. I was able to attend the 445th Airlift Wing Annual Awards Banquet, and just wanted to know a couple things about that. As I was sitting at my table, and they introduced all the mayors from the different areas, the table next to me, somebody came over and let us know that they were from Xenia. They were serving in the 445th, and they live in Xenia, and they were very proud of their hometown. They were very excited that we were supporting them. So I just wanted to mention that as we see folks out and about, to thank them, she had such a great attitude of service. She wanted to know if there was any way she could volunteer here in our community, and I just was very impressed. Mowing grass. There's a thought. I also had the chance, I took my 8-year-old son with me, and he had a wonderful time. Colonel Willis was extremely gracious to him, Colonel Sherman, and it was a very fun evening. On Sunday, March 10th, some people may have heard I was supposed to sing at a church. I could barely speak that day, so I apologize that I was not able to sing, and I know that had gone out on the radio, and I had some questions about that, so my apologies. On Tuesday, March 12th, I attended the annual Greene County Engineers Dinner. I wanted to specifically congratulate Mr. Bob Geyer, who is retiring as our county engineer after 22 and a half years. It was a good evening. Our speaker was the new director of ODOT. Dr. Marchbanks, and he spoke regarding the gas tax and answered questions, and had a very good conversation with him. On Wednesday, yesterday, on the 13th, as Mr. Marinez mentioned, we had folks come out from Wright Pat. Colonel Sherman came out. He's the commander of the 88th Air Base Wing, and he brought his wife Lori and 5 other folks with him. We had an incredible time. Central State was present, Clark State, Dave Deskins with the Career Center, Dr. Lofton with Community Schools, Sheriff Fisher came, Chief Person, Chief Rigsby, multiple people of our staff, Councilman Urschel. And we just had a great time sitting together and discussing ways that we could partner. One aspect being that we are a community of choice. We are a place that you can come and live at a fraction of the cost. And then, of course, we talked about ways to recruit folks from here and have apprenticeships. And it was such a good experience. And I do believe it's the first time that something like this has happened here in our community. Is there anything that either one of you wanted to add about that conversation? It was.
Yeah, and I'll just echo a little bit about what Dale had to say with that. There's 30,000 employees at Wright Pat, and the folks in the Air Base Wing make up 5,000 of those. And I was shocked at the number.
Yeah.
And basically, the Air Base Wing is very, very compatible with what we do here in the city in terms of they take care of the roads, the electrical work, the water, the sewers, the infrastructure, the firemen, the policemen. But most of those are skilled trades. And Colonel Sherman, as we've talked before, he said not only, and we've talked in terms of the college fields, there's going to be a big bubble of hiring. He said he's had a huge bubble coming up for those skilled trades. And a very large majority of his staff, almost the majority are all civilian, are going to be retiring soon. And they're starting to realize they have a desperate need to fill for skilled trade folks. And I think one of the really encouraging things was that they are now looking to restart an apprenticeship program out at the base, reaching down to the high school level.
That's good.
And to encourage that. And that type of program happened about 15, 20 years ago, and in the drawdown after we won the Cold War, we lost all those type of positions. And starting this next year, they're going to start funding those again. And I think that's going to be a great opportunity for a lot of our folks at the vocational center and at the high school level to start linking up over there at the base. Because I'll tell you, if you get an apprenticeship program over there, I think that's probably a guaranteed job.
Yes.
Over there as well too. And we're not just talking tens or hundreds, we're talking thousands of positions there. And a lot of the types of positions he was talking about lined up very well with the new training that's planning on going into the Greene County Career Centers. They not only their baseline training, but that when they open up the new career center, they're going to have about 6 new career fields that they're going to be bringing in there. And I think it's just going to be a great synergy happening from that perspective. So it was very appealing to hear about that. Right.
Anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I would just add, there were 2 things I think that carried over and really resonated with me from that event, which I think went really well, and I appreciate both the mayor and Councilman Urschel participating. One was, and I hope I'm getting the Colonel's stats correct, but he stated that their complement, that 30,000 complement, more than half of that complement is aged 45 to 60.
That's correct.
Yeah,
right.
we did.
So that means 18 to 45, all those age groups don't quite equate the group that's 45 to 60. And so they've got, and they know a huge bubble coming with thousands and thousands of jobs. And of course, this region, with the types and the diversity of job requirements that they will have, or openings that they will have, the region cannot really provide the workforce for that. So we are going to be bringing people from maybe all over the country to this Miami Valley region to fill those positions. And it presents a tremendous opportunity for our community to try to be competitive in convincing those folks who are coming in, oftentimes younger out of college, younger out of apprenticeship, to want to make Xenia their home. And we offer a value proposition because of the quality of life and the low cost here. So that was a really big theme that we heard coming out of that conversation. And I think the other thing, and I want to echo the mayor's sentiment, the event yesterday was just in getting our educational partners, including Xenia Community Schools, Greene County Career Center, Clark State University, and Central State University together to talk about what we are doing to address a lot of these issues. And the Colonel took time in his commentary yesterday to really acknowledge the fact that he heard over and over again partnership and collaboration. As we look at projects like the Reach Center, the Career Center, the City of Xenia has been working hand in hand with these educational partners to provide that workforce development and that educational base to help grow our local economy and our workforce. And so he commented on that, and the mayor and I saw him again last night, mayors and managers, and he reiterated those and what a nice time they had. So I want to thank our staff that helped organize the event, council members that we asked to attend that came out, and all of our educational partners for the time they spent. It was a great event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to, as well, also thank Mr. Brodsky and Mr. Merriman and Mr. Holloway. And when we first approached this idea, and I asked you guys to begin working on this, you put together a phenomenal presentation. So and Carly made sure that it looked great. I could not have been more proud to have them here. So thank you for your efforts. It was an exceptional day, so thank you so much. Let's see. I also attended the job fair that afternoon, and I know we mentioned that this was a partnership as well between the City of Xenia, the Chamber, Ohio Means Job, Greene County, and Clark State. Again, just working together to find ways to present people with jobs, find good employees. So it was a good event. And then just this evening before coming here, I stopped by Shawnee Elementary for their art show. Looked at the pieces the kindergarten through 5th grade did, and it was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it, and wanted to mention just the is it PTA? PTO? PTO. They did a great job putting this event together. There was a lot of family there. They had pizza, and you could do arts and crafts there at the school. And I wanted to specifically thank Montgomery Insurance. They provided funding for the teachers just to be able to go out, buy art supplies, do what they wanted to do. So the kids did a great job. So congratulations to those children. I think that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Councilman Ladner.
Thank you. Jared Holliday and I attended a Hamvention meeting. Was that yesterday or the day before? Yesterday. Hamvention is coming May 17th, 18th, and 19th. I know it's not a city event. It's basically a township and a county, but it affects our local economy greatly. So I'm looking forward to them coming, and they have an announcement coming out. They told me not to say anything, but I've got a big mouth, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything, but it's some very exciting news coming up. So it's positive news coming out of the Hamvention. So I'm looking forward to working with them to boom our local economy. You know, we have a new hotel, and I think the first couple of years people didn't know the city, didn't know what restaurants to go to, et cetera. But I think gradually that's improving. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Smith.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilman Urschel.
Two items. I had a chance to stop in at the job fair too, and I was really impressed by one option that's available, that's local here through Ohio Means Jobs, and they are providing the opportunity for young men and women who are post the high school age, who may not have gotten their high school diploma, to enter in a program to get a certificate of food preparation, which is it's an 8-week course that's offered at One Bistro, and One Bistro has offered up their food preparation area for folks to get trained in this, and in addition to this, you can get not a GED but a high school diploma issued by the Department of Education at the state level. Yeah, and at no cost, and I think that's an amazing opportunity. They also are providing, now that's for the one certificate program that's local, that you don't have to go to their main regional training area, which is northwest of downtown Dayton, which has a lot of issues with transportation. They have 6 other certificate programs up there, including welding and some things like that as well too. But they've told us that in the past that their experience is that folks have a hard time getting through that program with transportation every day. And so I just kudos to them to actually bringing one of the training programs here to downtown. Kudos to One Bistro for willing to to offer their ability. I'm hoping we can get an expansion of that as well too. But what a great opportunity for young men and women who may have at the time of high school decided it isn't worth it to get the degree, and now they find themselves in their 20s and without a trade and without that ability. So I just want to say kudos for that. And the other thing I'd say is, we talk about the mowing thing, but You know, shame on us, we got 1,000 violations a year, and that we're putting that burden on our city employees, right? And, you know, we've got 11,000 residences and businesses in the city, and that's about 10%, right? And I just encourage folks that, you know, if you got a neighbor who's got an issue with their yard, you can do one of two things. You can just sit there and just be upset about it and disturbed and wait for the city to take care of it, right? Or you can complain to the city and look for the city to take care of it, or you can just get out there and help your neighbor, right? And I go out, every time I mow my neighbor's front yards, just to help them out. And I'm looking around my street, and sometimes things are happening with folks you just don't know about, you know, and sometimes there's sickness and there's issues like that, and maybe your neighbor's just on a trip, right? And so, you know, we can step up and do that. We've got one family that's been associated with our church that had just a terrible yard, terrible home, and a lot of people complained about it for years, and we finally, we stopped complaining, and we said, well, let's go help them, and we got in the home. We just found just terrible conditions in the home, but, you know, instead of waiting for the city to condemn it or the city to take care of it, we said, let's us take care of that. Let us do that, right? And if we had more folks doing those kind of things, right? We say we're the city of hospitality, right? And I think we need to start individually taking some responsibility and responsibility from a church perspective and other organizations to step out and start looking for folks that we can come alongside. And wouldn't it be a great thing if this summer there was only 100 violations, right? Because people were starting to look out for their folks, right? And so maybe I need to come over and help you with your mowing. Hold me accountable to that there.
I won't tell you that.
Okay, there you go, right? Instead of me driving by Edgar's place and saying, what's up with that church? What's the problem? I can say, man, what an opportunity to serve these folks, right? And I just would encourage us to start having that kind of mindset, right? And what a great thing that would be in our community. So I'll just put that out there.
Can I just say, piggyback on that?
Sure.
How many churches do we have in Xenia?
We have 80 churches in Xenia.
80 churches. I mean,
Yeah.
if each church,
Yeah.
all it would take is just if each church, 10 people out of each church
Yeah.
just stepped up to help,
Yep.
you know, and help in situations like this.
Absolutely.
Because we don't know, maybe the people are handicapped. We don't know,
Right,
we don't
right.
know their situation.
Right.
But, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
that's the end of my soapbox.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Now, one last thing I'll mention is we've one thing we are working on collaboratively. We got 20 churches in town signed up right now. Is to get us out the week after Easter, as churches in the city for a week to get out and look for people just to bless with prayer, and that's one step. And wouldn't it be great that we could get more to go out during that week and look for folks to pray for? And that includes our service folks, you know, the police and the fire department and folks in our community. But then, like you also say, to look for what are ways we can bless our community, right?
Mhm.
And come alongside our community. And you know, all I'm saying is we can't always say it's the city's job, right? Or it's the school's job or those kind of things. It's our responsibilities. I mean, we're people, and we have giftedness, and we can step up to these kind of things. So I just encourage us to look for those kind of opportunities.
Councilman Dean.
I have nothing further to add, thank you.
Mr. Vice President?
The only thing I would like to say is the Wilberforce University also had their job fair yesterday, and we need to somehow try to figure out when these things are happening so that we don't end up with conflict.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that some merchants were unable to be at Wilberforce because they were at Xenia High School. So I don't know how we coordinate that, do it, but we've got these partners in the community, Central and Wilberforce and high school, so somehow that would have been excellent if we could have had one job fair this week and another one in a couple of weeks and so forth. I'll certainly make sure I mention it to Mr. Jones at Wilberforce, who coordinated the job fair there, and I'll get with Brent and see if we can maybe find out who does the planning with the other one. That would be, I agree completely with what you just said, Will. When I was here before, we had a member of our congregation whose house was in dire need of painting, and there was some eaves and fascia board that also needed replacing, and people were talking about it. I said, why don't we talk about it? Let's do something about it.
Right, right.
And the men's fellowship went over and went to work on it, repaired the house and painted the house.
Right.
And the women fixed up absolutely marvelous meal.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
just had a great day of fellowship.
Right, right.
And that's the kind of thing that could happen far more frequently
Right, right.
if we did things together. And you mentioned that we were doing something in April, but you didn't mention that it was Revive Ohio.
Right,
And
right.
Revive Greene County. I have become involved in it, and it's just exciting.
Yes.
Exciting evangelism program, actually the simplest evangelism program I've ever seen anywhere, and I think it's gonna be a tremendous boon
Right.
to Christians
Yeah.
in Greene County.
Right.
It's Xenia, but Greene County as
Yeah,
well.
we're getting
That's
the
it.
folks in our churches out of the pews, outside, together. And we got churches from the east side, the west side, the
Yeah.
north side, and the south side, and what a good thing for us to be out together and seeing folks from other churches and working alongside folks from other churches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess we should mention that on Tuesday, this past Tuesday was at 6:30 at Emmanuel, and this coming Tuesday is at noon at AME. There's prayer for the Revive Ohio, Greene
Yeah.
County project, so that's gonna keep on going until we actually do the.
Right, so that, yeah, this Tuesday at noon at Pastor John Freeman's church at
United AME.
on Church Street. Come join us if you want to from noon to 1, and we're just praying for our city. We start at noon and finish at 1, and I'll tell you, we've got folks from all different kind of congregations, and you'll be very encouraged to come and pray with us for our city. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just one item is a thought for city manager and the mayor as we talked about, right, Pat, and jobs and such and so forth. Is there any way that we could work with them such that as they have this tide of new jobs that will be becoming available, a way for us to help them promote those in our local community? I would just invite you to begin thinking about that and begin having a conversation with the base commander as that may be a future partnership that we could engage in, where we could then directly work with our schools, our
Mexicans.
new career center and such and so forth to front load some of our students coming out with jobs.
Absolutely.
Unless there's anything else, I would seek a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Moved by the Vice President, second please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lauterbach. Roll call, please.
Vice President Walsh.
Aye.
Councilman Urschel.
Aye.
Councilman Lauterbach.
Aye.
Councilman Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Eagle.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.